Hello and welcome to Makers.dev episode number 36. Chris, I like your shirt.
Thanks. It's a nice red shirt.
It is a nice red shirt. More vibrant.
You also have a red shirt on, yeah.
Reddish? Would it be pink? It's like I don't know. When I was young, I used to love the color red, and I would like lay out my outfits for the beginning of the day, and I had like these bright red pants and this bright red shirt. And that was just my favorite of the outfits that I would do. And to my little child brain, like, that's how you matched clothing. It had to be the same color on the top and the bottom. And it made me very happy. So I think...
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'd like to return to those days of just the monocolor. Oh, man. If it was just a little bit more socially acceptable, that would drastically simplify how I'm thinking about clothing. How you doing? We got 2 more days, I think, until your GPS competition. How are we looking?
That's right.
Still solidly in second place? What's going to happen? How's this going to shake out?
Yeah, we are currently in second place. We'll see how that goes. The margin of error between us and number 1 is closing, and between us and number 3. So everyone's crunching in a little bit. And there's actually a thread on the forums this week about whether there will be a shakeup or not, because in some competitions, people can rise or fall by like 10 or 20 places even. In other competitions, it only goes up and down like 1 or 2 places, So I don't know. We don't know how this one's going to turn out. We will know in 2 days.
I'm curious about what the margin of error is here. Like, what's the difference in accuracy right now between first and second place? How much more accurate would you have to be be able to get first place?
Yeah, I think as of this recording, first place is like 2.95 meters or something like that, and we are like 3.05. So it's like 0.1 meters, something like that. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
0.1 meters. A meter is 1,000.
A
meter is 100 centimeters.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 10 centimeters. Wow.
Yep. That's about the same between us and third as well. So
that's amazing. Good job, all of you. That's very accurate. I feel it's like the Olympics. After like 200 yards, the first and second place is just a fraction of a second different. It's incredibly exciting. Can you talk about any sort of improvements that you're making in the last 2 days? Are you just doing some refining, or is there any sort of like wild radical thing you can pull out of left field to get way more accurate?
I can talk all about it next week. We are continuing our sort of process. It's been really interesting working on a team this time. I can talk all about the team dynamics, because last time I was solo and this time I'm on a team. And the team definitely has ideas that I would not have thought of, and so that's really neat. And so being able to talk, to people who are working on the same problem, and you're all working for the exact same pretty short-term goal is pretty unique. Like, usually in companies, you're working for some longer-term goal, and so you have to like worry about code structure and worry about all this stuff. We're like sending files back and forth on Slack. We're like I don't care about code structure at all. And so it's just a really different dynamic. It's enjoyable compared to some of the other things I've done. Yeah.
Different too from how I think you and I usually work. Usually, for me in particular, anything I'm working on is very much a solo project, and especially for the code of it. Like, in rare circumstances, I'm interacting with someone else on a higher level of thinking about, okay, well, this is like the goal of the code, and this is what it should be doing, and someone else has an idea for a feature, but then it's down to me to implement it. And I've experimented with hiring other people, and for code, I don't think that's going to make sense for a little bit. What's that experience like for you of having other people who are really in the weeds, really understanding the technical aspects of it? Is that energizing? Are you stepping on each other's toes? What does that feel like?
Yeah, it's more. So I've probably had more of that since I'm a consultant. So I worked on teams that are more like what you were describing. For this in particular, which is kind of the same for a lot of teams I've been on, like we sort of slotted into our specialties. Like we kind of know, based on our forum posts and what we've talked about, what we're good at, and we kind of have our own little lanes that we're trying to optimize for. And then we all sort of look, once it's all together, we kind of all look at that and see if there's like a place where we can all optimize. And so, so we've kind of, I think, naturally found where each of us fits and in the whole solution. Also, like, we don't have time to develop like a robust team dynamic, and so it's kind of like, what are you best at? All right, do that for the next 5 days or whatever.
How are scheduling overlapping weird, or do you find that you jive pretty well with the college schedule.
Yeah, well, so it's good because so they're in Japan and they stay up really late Japan time, and so that overlaps more with my schedule than if they were, because if they stayed up normal hours Japan time and I stayed up normal hours U.S. time, we would be almost exactly on the opposite sides of the world. But as it is, they stay up super late and get up really late, which happens to overlap pretty nicely with what I do. So, yeah,
that's perfect. Well, I wish you the best of luck. This is the most exciting Olympic event that I'm following. How if you can get first place and beat this GPS professor, GPS expert.
So he at least has a PhD. We don't know much about him. He used his first name, but he didn't post a lot of personal details on Kaggle. So we think he's a postdoc, or was a postdoc, which means he's either a professor now or a PhD practicing in industry. Somehow related to the GPS. We think.
What a feather in your cap that would be if you could beat this person as a postdoc in GPS just by like, oh yeah, I picked up a book on GPS and learned enough about it, and I know a lot about ML.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this contest is like only partly GPS. It's like there have been a lot of data problems in this competition, like missing data and slightly wrong data and all this stuff. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of data stuff. And so you really need both the GPS and the data knowledge to do really well, I think.
What a fantastic meta skill of just understanding the world better. I had the thought when I was watching the opening ceremony for the Olympics that it feels like the number of athletes that each country has is some sort of a function of that country's population and like maybe one or two other pieces of data, like their GDP or something.
I think it's money too, like how much money they can spend to send athletes. Yeah,
that makes sense. But I've never seen like a model of that. And so, in a pretty short amount of time, I had scraped the data on the Olympics.com website, and now I have this list of every single athlete and what their sport is and what country they're from. And I have not yet answered this question, but like, because I got distracted on doing other things. But it feels totally within my wheelhouse of like, oh yeah, I could answer this question of what the, if you just take a country's population and then multiply that by some constant times their GDP, that's how many athletes they'll have. And then if you want to know, what area of athletes they'll have, like, is it a coastal city? And it seems like a sort of data learning problem that being well versed in just, can you get the data? Can you clean it up? Can you wrap your head around causal relationships between them? I feel like a very capable human, that this is like the sort of thing that I could solve. And once again, I'd like to affirm, I think you're spending your energy in a very effective place. Of you're focused on like intelligence. You're becoming very good at solving arbitrary problems, and that's very useful. Sort of trivial in this example of like the Olympics, but in the GPS problem, that's potentially going to improve the GPS ability of every phone on the planet. It's just going to be able to better figure out where it is, and that's really cool. What a useful place to be spending energy and a useful skill set to be honing.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
I love it. How is the internship with, oh my gosh, I wrote it down, Hidden Door? How's the Hidden Door? Not internship. Residency.
Yeah, residency. Visiting software engineer. You can call it an internship if you like. Also, yeah, it's going great. I'm about a month in, have a month to go. They were really thoughtful in the way that they laid out my summer. They basically gave me a project that I could complete from start to finish, and that would be actually material usefully, deployed. And so I'm about halfway through the project. Because I'm about halfway through my time. It's a type of project that is never ending. Like, they're going to be working on this for years. Like, it's a core part of their gameplay. But I'm to the point where I've done a lot of web work now. So I've set up all the APIs, and I've thought deeply about the data and about what different steps need to happen. And now I'm just starting, and I have it like dummy coded basically. So it's returns random results, but actual results. And now I'm actually making those random results useful to the player. And so I'm using some ML now to actually figure out, what the player needs when, and then returning those results through the thing. So yeah, by the end, I should have worked with several different language models and language things. Yeah, and it's been really neat, especially, I've said this multiple times, but working on a non-business application has been very interesting again. So this is a game, first and foremost, and it's been neat to be working on games. Yeah.
Cool. How energizing. And remind me, the scope of the problem that you're solving is people interacting with a artificial dungeon master through text. So I can like say, I'd like to see what's under that rock, and then you're building a model that could answer like, you found a piece of silver under the rock.
Yeah, so I'm actually building the first part. So these are like 10 to 14 year olds, 9 to 14 year olds. So you don't want them typing out all their things. One, because not all of them can type, not all of them want to type. So you need a fast interface to get like whole sentences or whole ideas of actions into play. And so how would you build a sentence if you don't want to type every letter? Well, you got to type words, right? So how do you show the words that the person wants to type in order to perform their action? So that's the crux of it. It's called the sentence builder, the project I'm working on. So, yep. How can you allow them to construct their turns?
I'm thinking like an autocorrect or autocorrect for this specific domain of, I want to have some sort of an action that I'm describing in the context of a D&D game. Is that right?
It is kind of like autocorrect. Yep.
Cool.
It basically suggests words that it thinks you want to play. And if you keep scrolling, then there's words that you may be really weird. So like, if you're fighting a dragon, the first thing might be sword, but 3 pages down the line, it might be like jetpack or something. And then you might submit that. And then the AI dungeon master may be like, you don't have a jetpack. You can't do that. So like that might be the answer. Whereas if you said the more obvious sword, right, then you would get a better answer. But yeah, so how do you give the options they want, like sword, but also the options they may just want to play around with, like jetpack?
Gotcha.
Yep.
What a complicated problem. And that AI dungeon master, that's not happening in this 2-month residency.
So I'm not doing that. Someone is working on that in parallel. Yeah, not me.
Okay. What a fun problem. Difficult too, I would imagine, because like you have to keep track of the player's state. Like you have to remember if they have a jetpack and if they have a sword, and maybe they found a jetpack and now you have to store that they have a jetpack. Huh.
Yep.
That's a really difficult problem. How fun.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
I love it. Neat. I would love to talk to you about this last week. I think I'm on my 5th week now of saying that I could easily finish Clips.marketing within a week, which is frustrating to me. And there's 2 parts to this. The first part is I'd love to talk with you about the specific technical puzzle that I'm chewing on now. That, like, really for real this time. This feels like the very last just little thing of, if I figure this out, I'm done. Like I have the model, and then it's just... I would have a functional thing, and then it would be just implementation details after this. And then the second thing is like a more of a meta problem of getting more work done more effectively that I'm perpetually struggling with. So the first and more fun one, this technical puzzle, the thing I'm trying to figure out is I would love for the interface to be, for a user, you are looking at a grid of days and times. So each column is a day of the week, and each row is a time. So if I wanted to say, like, I'd like to post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. and every Tuesday, Thursday at 10 a.m., I could just click the checkbox on the Monday row on the 9 a.m. column. No, reverse that. The Monday column, the 9 a.m. row. Okay. And then I'd hit that same row for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I've hit 3 checkboxes, and then on Tuesday, Thursday, I go down 1 row, and I hit the 10 a.m. on Tuesday, Thursday, and I have that like per hour. That's what I want the interface to be. I don't know how I'm going to save that data. I don't know, is that like a date time? Is that like an array of times, and it's a nested array for each day? And I don't know how to save the data, because the next time I would need to interact with that is I want to be able to query my database for all of my users who have a post due. Like it's time for them to run a post. And that query is going to look something like, I have a value stored for what the very next time they're going to post is. And I just want to say, okay, any user whose time for the next time they need to post is either now or in the past. Those are all the people who have posts due. Let me query all those, and then for each one I'm looping through, feeding off their next post. And then I need to set the time for their next post after this one, after they've already posted this one time. I need to set what the next one's going to be. So for an example user, that would be like, okay, right now it's Monday at 9:01 a.m., and my cron job is running, seeing which users are due for a post. I come up with the clips.marketing user, and here we go. Its next post was scheduled for 9 o'clock. It's currently 9:01 on this beautiful Monday. I'm going to do their post, and now I need to calculate, okay, when is the next time they would need to post? Oh, it's Tuesday at 10 a.m. So I'll set their value for the next time they need to post 25 hours from now. And now they'll be ready for the next time this cron job runs. And I'm just having the darndest time thinking about how I'm going to do that. A stupid way that I could do that, I'll say also part of the difficulty of this for me is like time zones are that, it's 9 a.m. in the central time zone is what I need to say. And every time I touch time zones, it just breaks my brain because you've got to be switching it back and forth like 4 times in the process of doing this, because the server can be on one time zone and the user can be on one time zone, and then you need to be doing math on the server's time zone, and oh my gosh, I hate it. So that's the difficult part that I'm running into. And I just don't know. So a simple way that I could do this is there's a library I know of that will take natural language time. So I can take a string that says something like Monday at 9 a.m. and I can have this library take in that string and a reference time that I think includes the time zone, and it will return to me the time that makes the most sense on that string. So if it's currently Monday and I feed it the string Monday at 9 a.m., I think it'll give me next week Monday at 9 a.m. But then that feels fragile and gross. Like that does not feel like an elegant solution. I am curious. I would love to pick your brain. How would you approach this problem from a data perspective? How would you be storing this data, and then how would you be calculating what the next string is? And am I missing something architecturally? Is there a better way that I could be doing this more cleanly? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no. So I have solved this at least 2, maybe 3 different times, just for Meeting Place. So Meeting Place has the exact same problem, which is that you have someone scheduling an event at a different time zone than your server, and it has the additional problem that they're scheduling an event for users which may be on a different time zone from them, which is on a different time zone from your server, right? So, right. Number 1, your server needs to be in UTC time. Like, it better be. If it's on Central Time, switch it. Figure out how. Okay. Because UTC time doesn't switch for time zone, or doesn't switch for daylight savings time. So that's number 1. Second thing, yes, you're scheduling things in the user's time zone, but those things will have a proper UTC date also. So there's a few ways you could do this. One is you could create we'll call them recurring events, which are like Tuesday at 9 a.m. in the user's time zone. And you could do something like create. So there's multiple ways to do this. In Meeting Place V1, I stored the day of the week, so 0 through 6, and the time in the user's time zone, and the user's time zone. Is that right? Yes. And then I did it every month or so, but every week, at the beginning of the week, you could calculate all the UTC time offsets, or UTC timestamps that you're going to need to ping that user. And then you only need to update all those if that user touches that record again. So if they touch that record, then recalculate the next week automatically.
Okay.
Then your query for your cron job could be just find the UTC timestamp between this and this. And so that makes your query easy.
You're storing the user's time zone, the day of the week, and the day of the week is just number 0 to 6.
Yep.
And you're storing the time in the user's time zone. So when you're trying to figure out in UTC time what time is this, you take the time in the user's time zone and you take their time zone, and now you create a new time including the time zone. So now you have the UTC time of when that is. So if it's
Yep.
Central Time, 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, the object that you're now dealing with is in UTC time. Okay, that's part of this puzzle I think I was missing, was I need to pull everything back to UTC time.
Yep.
Okay.
The other way to do it, depending on how many users you have, is just pull back all users in your cron job and calculate the UTC time of their next time, and then only ping if it's within an hour or whatever you're doing. That will probably work up to 10,000, 100,000 users, something like that. So that is less work up front, but it will break after, I don't know, some number of users.
I don't like that. I don't think I understood what you said either. You're querying every user and getting
For
all
every
of their
cron
UTC
job.
times. And okay, yeah, I don't think I like that as much.
Yeah, okay. Don't do that then.
Okay.
The other way that I've done it is, let's see, I had a third way, which is, don't store the time and date and time zone in their, or don't store the day and time in their time zone, but store it all in UTC, but store their time zone. And then when you show it to them, that is when you convert it back.
Then just on the front end, okay.
Yeah. So that's the other way. But because you're doing, that's more helpful for like meeting place, because then I can take that UTC date and show it to other people that may be in a different time zone. But if they're always going to be in the same time zone, then actually this might be the way to go, is to always store it in UTC time, but also store their time zone, so that when you show it to them, you show it in their time. Yes. And I know exactly what
store this is. Yeah. I think I want to store it as like integers. I like the idea of storing the day of the week as an integer, and then I think on top of that I would want to store like the time as an integer that's just the number of minutes past midnight it is. But I don't know if that would help me.
Just make sure it doesn't break over daylight savings time.
Daylight savings time.
Yeah.
There's what's the expected behavior around daylight savings time? If I said that I want to post at 9 a.m. every Monday, and then daylight savings time happens, I think I would want it to now post still at 9 a.m., which would be like an hour earlier or later.
Yeah. The only problem is if you say 2 a.m. on Monday on daylight savings time, because in the fall there is no 2 a.m. and in the spring there's 2 a.m.s. Is that how it goes, or the other way around? Yeah.
What an outrageous! I think just no one's allowed to post at 2 a.m. No one.
Yeah.
No day of the week. Is that reasonable? Because I was thinking about this, that if I have a list of 24 rows, that's like a lot of rows, and now my interface for selecting the time is pretty big, versus if I just have 12 and I just say, okay, reasonable people wouldn't want to post any earlier than 7 a.m. and probably don't want to post past 7 p.m.
Well, if you're in Russia and you want to post, on U.S. time, that might be 2 a.m. Russian time.
Oh, it would be. But then maybe you just switch the time zone. Maybe you just say, I want to post in the central time zone. Also, like middle of the hour, I don't know how to handle that, because I don't want I like the idea of this box of like it's just days and times as a grid. But then I also don't think I want this to be really robotic, where like anyone using Clipstop Marketing is always posting exactly on the hour. I think something Buffer does is they give you like a random time offset. So I think mine is like 14 minutes past the hour. And I only have 4 time slots that I can post in, of like morning, early afternoon, late afternoon, evening. Do you have any hard opinions about that, of how you would handle the minutes past the hour? I could randomize it. I could say like it's going to be within 20 minutes of this time, and I'll make it a little fuzzier.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to give. You said they give you a range, like early morning, early afternoon.
On Buffer, it's just like 4 rough time ranges to be posting in.
I mean, that's not bad either, because that gives you the maximum flexibility. Like if you want to take your server down at 9 o'clock for an upgrade or something, then you don't have to worry too much about delaying people's, posts or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't have
and
a
that's
server.
much simpler then. Now it's just 4 boxes.
Yeah.
per day. Maybe I do that and just see if anyone complains about like I needed to post exactly at 9:15 every morning. That feels like a simpler interface. The answer to this, I think, is that I need to be talking to more customers, but I don't want to. I don't want to be thinking about time zones.
Well, what would you want to do if you had a tool and you're going to use this, right? Do you want to say 9 o'clock or do you want to say early morning? I would probably want to say 9 o'clock, but I don't know.
That's interesting. I think I don't care. I think I want to just say like. I think I would just want to say morning. And then whenever you want to post in the morning, and then just not think about it. I don't know that it matters. I've seen posts that like detailing, this is the absolute best time to send email. It's Tuesday at 8 o'clock because that's right after Monday when everyone's already done all their emails from the weekend and, they have a clear inbox. And so when you email them at this time, you get the highest thing. But for this thing, like the goal of this, I think, is to be posting every day. So I don't know that the day would matter.
Oh, I was going to say you should like have them select a day of the week and say this will use AI to automatically detect the optimal time to post based on your followers.
That's probably the correct answer. And then the
just
AI
post
is
whenever
just
you
like,
want.
It's random. Yeah, I just post whenever I want.
Or post at 9 a.m. I mean 9 to 10 a.m. is probably the optimal time for most places. So just run it for so. Then sort it by time zone and just do a cron job, and 9 a.m. at that time zone you post all the things from that time zone.
Yeah. So. That would simplify this. Then I might be able to get away with like not even looking at their schedule at all, and I just globally I'm posting in one of the 4 time slots, and then I'm just running this cron job like whatever once every 6 hours.
Yeah. Well, and I was just going to say too, I mean, how many time zones are there? There's like, depending on how you count it, there's either 24 or like 200 or something like that, but that you can run through that list.
200 time zones?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No! Why? Humans! Why? What are you doing?
But you could just run through that list and say if for all users on this time zone, it's going to be this time. Yeah. So if they have if you have morning selected and you're on this time zone, then post right now. Yeah. And then just go through 200 of those.
I hate time zones. Why have we done this to ourselves?
Oh yeah.
Why this?
Yeah, me too.
Clearly, the people who came up with time zones were not thinking of a future when I would need to build something that could translate between every time zone in the world.
That's right. That's why GPS time is a thing. That's what I'm learning.
We all need to
GPS time doesn't have time zones. It doesn't have leap seconds. So there you go.
That's what we need. That's such a cleaner system. Good. Okay, this is a very interesting idea. Just having like rough blocks of time, like morning, afternoon. I think I'm just going to steal that directly from Buffer, and then I think that would simplify what I'm doing. And then I like the idea of storing the day of the week just as an integer, because that feels tenable. That I could then, now given that information from a user, if I'm posting for them now, then I would just see, okay, what day is it right now? What is the next day that they need to post? And then what's the time offset? I'm just trying to get the next time in UTC that they would be posting. So first I figure out the day, which is just going to be the next day based on what day it is right now. If I have an array of all of the days that they need to post as integers, and it's day number 4 right now, then I look, okay, do they have another one on day number 4? No. Do they have one on day number 5? No. Do they have one on day number 6? Yes, they do. And they have said that so now in a nested array for day number 6, I want to look at an array of the number of minutes past midnight in their particular time zone that they wanted to post. And then I translate that to UTC, and then that's what I set for the user's high-level time of like, this is the next time that they're going to post. Okay, I feel like I have a handle of that now. And fingers crossed, this is the last little puzzle of Clips Marketing. Before this is actually posting, oh my gosh, I have so many great clips from this show queued up, and I'm excited to get the ball rolling. And then also this is going to unfreeze me on a couple of fun podcasts I've been doing of just like interviewing people. I've felt stuck on this of like I want some sort of an engine to be popping out clips, so that feels good. Related to this, I woke up every day treating Lyme disease if I wanted to make an excuse, but I'm not in the making excuse mode.
That's a pretty good excuse. As excuses
it's a pretty
go.
good excuse. if I was in the mood to make excuses, that would be a pretty good excuse. But I'm not making excuses. I wanna be getting more stuff done. I woke up almost every day with this idea in my head of like the most important work for me to be doing is pushing forward Clips.marketing. This is so close, and it's accomplishing all these things for me, and it feels very tenable. And once I'm actually in the work doing it, it feels very fulfilling. And right before this podcast, I pulled up my data on how many minutes I worked on this per day. And I'm very strict with how I'm defining working on this. I have to be working in a palm with no distractions for at least a chunk of 25 minutes at a time. And the day that we recorded this podcast last week, I worked on it not at all. And then the next day, 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 an hour and 42 minutes. And then the next day, 25 minutes. And then the next day, an hour and 13 minutes for a total of 199 minutes or 3.3 hours. And that feels terrible. And I would like to be gracious towards myself of like, okay, we measured it. Great. You can now work on it more next time. But I think there's a undercurrent of like a lot of hope in this of like I still meaningfully pushed this forward and got it even closer to the finish line of having a workable thing. Still got a lot done and got a it was very cognitively taxing of like I'm working on all these higher level architecture things, and I only spent 3.3 hours on this for the entire week, and I could do that amount of work in a day. So I feel like I've been doing a lot of trying to be optimizing for what exactly do I want to be working on and what's the best thing for me to be working on right now. And looking at this of like, I am kind of happy with the progress that I made on this, only working 3.3 hours. And I felt like every day I was making choices of like, do I want to be working on this or something else? I could be doing this and pushing forward like 10 other things the same amount or more, and I would still have a lot of time every week. So on the one hand, I'm sort of horrified of like, this was my singular focus for the week, and I only worked on it 3.3 hours. And on the other hand, I feel very hopeful of like, wow, how much more capacity do I have as a human? I could be working on so many more things, and I could be pushing this forward twice as much next week, and also I could be doing 4 other things. So that feels kind of cool, and also I feel very lazy that I could have been working on this much more than I actually did. What are your thoughts on that? How do you? I don't. There's so many things I could be asking.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your hot take on this situation? How are you feeling about it?
So there are, I think, several people who feel exactly like you, at least at certain times. I feel that way at certain times. Yeah, I mean, it's something you think was your priority, but because you're tracking time, you only spent that much time on it. So there's a few things that might be possible. One is you can only spend that much time on it a week before you get tired of it or something like that. So that's one thing to think about. The other is that you thought it was your priority, but it wasn't. So you are cognitively able to spend more time on it, and you should try. The other one is that's as much as you can spend on that, but you can spend more time on other things as well, so you should try to do that. And so I'm just trying to plant seeds about things that might be happening, because I know for me, when I try to do things like something you described, which was like I can work on this one day and this another day and this another day, and I get 3 times as much stuff done, right? Well, it never works out that way for me. I will be working on the thing on day 1, and I'll be thinking about the other 2 things, and I will be wondering why I'm not doing them, even though this is like my predefined day to do, task 1. Why am I not doing task 2 and 3? Oh, I should do those. And I think that the whole day 1. And then on day 2, I think, why am I not doing 1 or 3? And so I've never found that it's possible for me to compartmentalize things like that, either by day or by hour or whatever. So your results may vary if you try that. It would be really interesting to see if you want to push forward multiple things, if you could compartmentalize like that. But I've not been able to do that before. That said, it seems like if it's your priority number 1, you should be able to spend more than 3 hours on it per week. So, but maybe not, and if not, then that is something you have to ask yourself and figure out for yourself. I don't know. Did any of that spark any follow-up questions?
the idea that I might have some cognitive dissonance, I think is the term of like I'm saying that this is my priority, but it's not actually, is very interesting, because I think to answer that question I would need to look back on like what did I spend more time on last week. Like I spent a lot of time reading, and I spent a lot of time researching Lyme disease and the side effects of doxycycline, which I don't know, maybe at a higher level that's how I would want to be spending my time, because that's like this lower level health optimization that's going to enable me to do a bunch of other stuff. I feel like I still haven't cracked this nut of like, how do I maximize my output as a human? How do I take my menu of things that I want to be working on and get over the activation energy of like getting started on those things? That feels like a place where I'm wasting a lot of time. And
I think it's I was going to say, I think it's something where I think everyone has cognitive dissonance about it, because so there's one level of work, which is like, say you're digging a hole. Like I just planted some trees, right? Say you're digging a hole to plant a tree. You have to dig the hole. So you had to, put the shovel in and take a bunch of dirt out. You have to do that. And once you're done, you dug the hole, you can put the tree in. And so you have to put the hours in for the work to happen. The other side of it is there are some fields, computer science is kind of one of those fields. I would say like math or, some like, professor kind of field is more this way. But you could have like a 30-year career where most of that career is based on like a few hours of your work. Like if you prove some theorem in a few hours of really thinking about it, like you had 30 years of thinking about that theorem and then you prove it in like a few hours, and that defines your career, right? Computer science is a little bit like that, because the more you think about something, the better it's going to be. But it's also a little bit like digging the hole. Like you just got to do the work. And so I think your cognitive dissonance, like from what I'm hearing, is some of like, the more I think about it, or the more I prepare, like, the more I do better for my health or whatever, like the better I will be at the thing. But there's also some of that, like, you just got to dig the hole. So that's where I would, somewhere between proving a math theorem in a couple hours and digging a hole is probably where you should be, and try to slide back and forth there.
I like the romanticism about the computer science is like proving a math theorem, and like, I do feel that way, because I spent a lot of time just like while I was walking and talking to people chewing on this. That is not time that I was tracking, but I was putting all these big complicated pieces together in my head that then when I actually sat down for the half an hour that I did on Thursday, that was a very effective half hour, because I was just like putting together these complicated pieces. I wasn't trying to figure it out from scratch of how I was going to do it. So on that hand, I can feel good about doing that amount of work, because that amount of work was like very effective. And if I'm trying to think about how else could this work have gotten done, well, I could have like paid a consultancy or something to do this work for me. The amount of work that I got done last week feels like it would have cost in the multiple thousands of dollars to pay someone else to be coming up with solutions to these problems. And that was something that I enjoyed. I really like chewing on these things and in my off moments, being able to think about how these complicated pieces are coming together. So in that sense, it feels cool, and I feel sort of like glorified. I'm like, oh yes, here I am in my ivory tower thinking about mathematics, and no one else could be coming up with these theorems, and that feels good. And at the same time, I have seen a lot of value in just pushing forward, and just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but just getting to my computer and setting a timer for 25 minutes and like pushing whatever I'm doing forward gets things done in a way that, I feel like I could just be endlessly pontificating on coming up with like, oh, but if I architect it in this way, then this piece would be slightly more effective, and then that'd be a little bit more elegant. And like, I don't need to be doing that. I can just do the thing, and it doesn't need to be perfect the first time. If I just like get a working version of it done, if I'm just showing up every day, pushing it forward a little bit, I think that's what I prefer. Okay. Well, okay. I feel good and bad about this situation.
I think you may have answered your own question. So you said showing up every day, and you did not show up every day. So my challenge would be that you show up every day for at least one Pomodoro. And the rest of the time you can just think all you want, but try showing up every day, see what happens. If you have if you have like really resistance to that, because I've
Yeah.
had people tell me that before, and I've been like, no, I don't want to. In my head,
Yeah.
I was telling myself that even though I wouldn't say it out loud. Then maybe this project is not what you want to be doing, or maybe you need to like kind of rethink about, I don't know. I don't know. These are hard questions, but yeah, I would say try to show up every day and just see how it feels.
I like showing up every day. That feels like a good episode title, because that gets me started. That gets me over the hump. And if I just work for 25 minutes every day, first of all, I'm going to get more done in a week than I got done last week, and I'm reasonably happy with how much I got done last week. That's going to refresh this project in my mind of like any complicated thing I'm chewing on is going to get brought to the surface of like, all right, remember, this is the thing that we were stuck on and we don't know what to do next. All right, subconscious, chew on this and get it done. And then I like that too, because like I can be making that choice for multiple things. Like I would like to be showing up every day for File Inbox. I think that would be a great place to be spending time. And I would like to be showing up every day for administrative things. And I probably have 4 or 5 available slots in my day of things that I can be showing up for every day. I'd like to be showing up every day for exercising. And I think of all the things I'm currently doing, like I'm probably doing that the most consistently. Maybe like reading also. And so if I'm showing up every day for the set of 5 core things that I've decided is these are the things that are important in my life, some days I think I'm going to be able to run away with like, oh my gosh, I've had this breakthrough in Clips.marketing and I want to spend 4 hours on this today. Okay, I still have the bandwidth to be showing up for the other 4 things. Excuse me. And I'm still refreshing each of those things in my mind, and I'm still getting the incremental benefits of exercising for 30 minutes every day is much better than exercising for 7 hours on one day. So I'm pushing these things forward a little bit every day, refreshing them in my mind, making sure that they're coming top of mind. And then I'm sort of forcing myself to evaluate the question every day of like, is this actually something that's in the 5 most important things that I want to be doing? And that feels like a worthwhile question to be asking. Okay. Interesting. I think I want to do some thinking this week about what those 5 things are. I think it makes a lot of sense for Clips.marketing to be one of those 5 things, for File Inbox to be one of those things, for general administrative stuff to be one of those 5 things, for exercise to be one of those 5 things, and then maybe like reading or learning to be one of those 5 things. I want to be pushing forward a book that I'm reading every day, or like doing an exercise from the ML book, or like learning Italian, and then maybe like family and relationships and friends. If I'm doing that every day, that would also be good. And that feels tenable. That feels like I can have my 6 little check boxes every day of like, I don't need to push this forward a lot. I just need to visit it and get started. And then, okay, I've done it. And if I don't want to do any more of it again for the day, that's fine. How does that sound? That feels very reasonable right now.
Yes, that sounds pretty good. And what I would also say is don't feel like, so say you're working on it for, I don't know, 20 or 25 minutes, however long your thing is. Yep. Don't feel like you have to be like working, producing stuff that whole time. So John Cleese has an amazing talk about creativity, and he basically says like part of creativity is like you're going to have to just sit like doing nothing else and just like sit for a while with a problem. And so if your 25 minutes for one day is like just sitting with a notebook and thinking about File Inbox, like you will probably have lots of measurable impact, even if you're not coding. So that's what I would say is don't think that, just because you're spending 25 minutes, it has to be active 25 minutes. As long as you are focused on the thing, I think that would be super productive. Yeah.
I like that. One of the rules that I have in a Pomodoro is I don't necessarily have to be working, but I can't be doing anything other than the thing that I'm doing. So like I can just sit there and do nothing, and that's okay. But man, my brain just hates that. It gets
you will almost
so bored
do
so
that,
quickly.
right?
And then if it has this one area where it's unrestrained, to like, okay, you can do stuff, but it has to be something pushing forward this particular thing. I can sort of trick myself into getting a lot of work done. Part of this too that I'm thinking a lot more about this, and like discipline and getting more things done, is I've been I moved in with my sister and brother-in-law who are studying for their medical boards for their step 2, and they have this outrageous study schedule where they're studying for I think 8 hours a day, and they've got a timer, and they've got their Pomodoros are 50 minutes long instead of 25. And I'm just like, wow, you're getting so much done, and like you're still feeding yourself, and you're still getting laundry done, and how lazy do I feel? Of like, I'm just sitting here. What have I done for the last 3 hours? You got 3 hours of work done, and I've just been sitting here. It's consistently inspiring and motivating to me, realizing that very effective people who are very motivated can get so much more done in a day just by being more focused and driven on like, this is the thing that I want to be pushing forward. So I'm seeing a lot more potential in what my actual output is.
Yeah, I will say, so I felt the same way about like when I was in college versus now, and like why was I able to do so much in so little time, during parts of college? And then I think there's a few key differences that you should, be okay with, which is they're optimizing for the next few years being incredibly difficult. You're optimizing for the next, 40 years of your life, your working life, hopefully being good. And so those are two very, very different things. One is temporary and intense. The other is kind of long, and you want it to, the other one is they have a professor telling them exactly what to study. You have no one telling you what to do. And so you really, you got to figure that out for yourself. And that's at least part of your, probably half or more of your time. And then the last one is they know exactly when they succeed. That's when they get their grade. And it's completely open-ended, right? Like your career could be as successful or not, and you won't even know, until you die. And so, yeah.
Do you get a score at the end? Do they tell you how well you did?
Right. Oh, you get a nice scoreboard.
I didn't know that. Looking forward to that.
So there's just it's two very different situations. And some of it is like you can trick yourself. The other is like we've said before, we're optimizing for what is a good life, not necessarily what is, part of a good life might be studying really intensely for a few years. But you don't want, if your whole life was like that, that would be awful. Right. So tricky questions. Tricky. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel better. I feel like that's similar to the advice I would have given myself of like, yes, it is much harder to figure out. Like I not only have to do the work, I have to define what the work is to be done. And that's very difficult. And yeah, I'm playing a game on a different time scale. They're studying 8 hours a day is not something I think you could do for your entire life, unless you just found like the thing that you love, that you're living and breathing, and you're theoretically on the cusp of like the machine intelligence and artificial intelligence, and you're like ranking in global competitions for these sorts of contests. Like, okay, I can sort of understand in that context of like that's working on that is just fueling you, and you want to spend as much time on it as possible. But I don't think I've found that yet. Like I've found a lot of types of work that I'm very interested in, that I enjoy doing, but I don't know. All of it feels like it's falling short of like, this thing makes sense to spend time on and sacrifice everything else for. I've talked to people like that. I have a friend who's a professional magician who just like gets the most life fulfillment out of creating these feelings of astonishment in people. And he has this beautiful way of describing it of like, people go through their lives thinking that they, as an adult, thinking that they know how the world works, and they haven't felt truly astonished in years because they just go to work and their car works, and they don't really think about how amazing it is that their car works. It just goes, and then they go to work and use a computer, and they don't really think about how amazing it is that they have a computer. That's just part of their normal life. And in his show, he can create in people this sense of astonishment of like, this thing that you just saw happen in front of you, you thought was impossible. Like, he has just broken their worldview. And he places such importance on people being able to feel that feeling in their lives, and he is in such a privileged position of like his entire tool set and his entire career has been focused on how to most effectively at the biggest scale create these feelings in people, that he just goes, he's just like every waking moment he's just thinking about these problems and magic, and he's putting together more shows, and he's he'll get hired for a birthday party and spend 20 hours like perfecting this specific trick for this one particular show that's like this thing that he can't use again. It's like tailor-made for this thing. Doesn't make any financial sense, but like he loves it. And that's, I don't know, I've had glimpses of that sort of feeling of purpose, and but every time I found it, it feels sort of elusive. Of like, okay, I've snatched onto this thread and I've pulled it, and then I've gotten it and like got 80% of what the thing is, and now I'm kind of bored and I'm on to the next thing, and I want to look for something else. I feel like I haven't quite found the thing of like, oh, I really just want to make as many paper clips as possible, and like that is the most important place for me to be spending energy in my life. That's a difficult problem. How do you think about that? Do you feel like you have an overarching purpose to your life that's like driving you forward, or are you still figuring it out? How are you framing that?
Yeah, I think you and I are similar in like part of jumping around is part of our purpose. Like we find joy in jumping around, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of it. The other is, so I'm thinking about this Kaggle competition I'm in and the previous one I was in, and like why the money is not the motivating factor. In fact, thinking about the money makes me want to do it less. And so that is one very interesting thing, right? I purposely chosen actually some of these, like two of these competitions, they've had lower stakes, lower prizes, partly because the real advanced grandmasters, they tend to avoid, Kaggle has grandmasters as one of the rank, and they tend to avoid these, and they'll go after, like, there's one for $100,000 right now, and they're all doing that one, right? Yeah, that's one of the reasons I've been doing so well, actually. But but like I found, like, I work incredibly hard on these problems with like seemingly no real gain. Like, I'm not getting money. My rank will increase slightly, and I'm getting knowledge, so that's something. So like, why, I have to answer the question for myself: why am I working so hard on something that doesn't really benefit me, especially in the short term? And if I could solve that, I could probably solve my life. But I haven't cracked that nut yet. Other than, money isn't necessarily a thing. After a certain point, I will say, like, I'm okay money wise. I can always get more consulting work. So, so after that point, like money's not the thing. Some of it's novelty, some of it's learning, some of it is feel like I'm working on the most, not the hardest problem I could be working on, but like a problem that I think will actually help people. I think that, that's it too. And so I think, you just gotta find these different areas that fit you, and then, go after those. So for some people, like, doing the same thing forever is what they want to do. For some people, like, your magician friend, it's all in one area, like these magic illusions. And for some people, I think like us, like, it's generally computer related, but otherwise I like to jump around. And I don't know how that story ultimately ends, but yeah.
I think I'd be okay with it just jumping around. I think I've felt the most fulfillment in life in that first jump of like discovering, oh my gosh, here's this brand new thing, machine intelligence. It's a brand new thing, and I can take things from this and put it together with other pieces of these other things over here, and or I can throw this project together in a day, and I can answer these questions about what determines how many Olympic athletes a country can output. Maybe that's the game. Just like notice when I'm feeling the most feelings of fulfillment and keep doing that type of thing. And it sure seems like jumping around is the layer of abstraction. Like, it's not any one particular thing. It usually has to do with computers, but not always. And I think that's when I do feel the most fulfillment, is when I'm jumping into a new project and figuring out a new domain. And similar to you, of like, GPS, figure it out. Like, I think you get a lot of fulfillment from that, of like, I don't think you knew anything about GPS before this, or
Nope.
anything more than the basics. And part of the excitement, part of the fulfillment of that project is like, you get to figure it out, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to be competing against people who have studied this for years, where, maybe the dude in first place, maybe this is his thing. Maybe he gets the most life fulfillment from just GPS, and he's never found anything that he gets more fulfillment from than this. And for you, I think the fulfillment game comes from arbitrary problems that you can get really good at really quickly. And I think I feel something similar in my life. It's about how quickly can I gain proficiency in this new domain, and how quickly can I like make a useful thing in this new context. That feels pretty good.
It's a lot to chew on too. A lot to think about.
It is.
Yeah, I've thought about it every time. Yeah, go ahead.
Having Lyme disease has gotten me more thinking existentially. Like, I got pretty close to dying. Not really, but this is like a thing that used to kill people, or it used to be a debilitating illness.
If you didn't get antibiotics, right?
Yes. So I've found myself with a lot of time thinking about like, wow, thank you society for like giving me back my life. What can I be doing to justify that? That I could have just been knocked back to nothing, and now I've gotten that back, so I'm appreciating it so much more. I have so many hours now where I'm not just, the only thing I'm capable of doing is laying on the couch and feeding myself and then going to sleep. What could I possibly be doing with that time to like justify its existence? That I have this time and freedom and energy to be doing stuff, and like, man, it's petrifying in a way of like I could be doing anything. I could be solving world peace, or like figuring out longevity, or curing senescence, or how do I make that decision? Even that feels debilitatingly like a large amount of responsibility to solve the problem of how to be directing my time and attention.
Well, and at the same time, you have to know, like, if you don't spend time sleeping and exercising and eating right, and probably vegging out on Netflix or video games or something, then you won't have the energy to do the rest of the stuff. So you got to balance all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Once I get to that point, then once I put in all that energy and figured out, like, all right, I'm taking doxycycline, I've got a handle on this Lyme disease, and I'm sleeping well, and I'm eating, and what then? Like, what is that all for? How do I justify the enormous amount of time and energy, not just on my part, but like, all of society and in a larger context, all of life has like led to this point where I can start a day and just work on whatever I want to work on. What things could I work on that could justify all of that time and work and energy? There's only so much like optimizing I can do of, okay, I don't feel hungry and I don't feel tired, and there's nothing else pressing I need to do. There are no fires, and all my bills are paid. And what do I do now? It's a tricky problem, and I think the answer for right now is just like do the work that I feel like in the day is most meaningful, and on a slightly bigger time scale, so I'm not having to resolve that every day. Like, have these touch points of things that I'm putting a little bit of work into every day. Have my core set of 6 projects of like, okay, every day I need to be just putting in the reps of pushing each of these things forward, and then that is going to optimize my chances of pushing forward something in a very meaningful way. Every once in a while, I'm going to get a banger day where I'm spending 2 or 3 hours on clips and marketing and pushing that forward a whole bunch. Every once in a while, I'll have a day where I'm, doing all my taxes for the year, and that sort of feels meaningful. Although I guess that's just like taking care of being able to free up time for other work.
I'll make sure you don't go to jail, that kind of stuff.
That is important. We had a conversation about this. The line of going to jail is much further along than I thought it was.
That's right. The IRS will send you letters for years. I think that's what I said. Yeah, before they take you to jail.
That's a very comforting thought. I've thought a lot about that since we've last talked about it. Okay, this is okay. If like this deadline passes, probably the worst thing that'll happen is I'll get some letters and have to pay a fine or something.
Pay a penalty. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that feels good for right now, and I feel jazzed to push forward my 6 projects for today. Awesome. What does this next week look like for you? You're gonna find out about this competition in about 2 days. What else would you like to be pushing forward?
2 days is a competition. After that, I'll probably be looking for the next one. So that's I'm still jazzed to do that. I just used your word, jazz. And then so working on Hidden Door. So that's basically been full-time job. It's 40 hours a week is the contract. So working on that for the next month, and I'm excited there because it is a different type of company than I've worked for before, being a game company, and it's a different type of product that I like, a different like back end and everything than what I've worked on before. So I think the thing that's keeping me excited about that is that it's all brand new, and for the next month it'll all be brand new. So I should be excited the whole next month. That's what I'm working on. I'm also this is completely unrelated, and we can talk about this next time because we're already at time. But I've been generating AI art recently.
I saw that on Twitter. Yeah,
yeah,
one of them was like a Pokemon going over a city or something. It looked pretty good.
I did that for my kid. Yeah. Some of them work really, really well. Some of them work not at all. And so in my free time, I'm using my new graphics card to generate AI art, and that's been really neat. So yeah,
that's so cool. Your input to that is just a descriptive sentence, and then it comes up with the art.
Yep.
That's amazing. Wow. I feel like you need a like one of those big displays that's tuned to look like it's a painting. So like the brightness auto adjusts, and the filter on it looks sort of like it's a surface instead of a screen, and that could be showing like a different piece of art every day or something.
Yeah.
Oh, or maybe NFTs. you could be minting these as NFTs.
Yeah. To make money with NFTs, you have to be sort of famous for other reasons. That's how people really make money. But yeah, could be. I've thought about starting a Twitter account that just posts one every day, because I've been doing this for 2 days and I already have like 40 that I think are kind of neat. So cool. Like, yeah, generating them is no problem. So I might do that, like a one every day post on Twitter or something.
And then that can be the way that you become famous. You just
I suppose
posting every day, and then the Twitter account starts minting NFTs from the each of them. Yeah. Huh. Neat. How cool. That's a thing I want to get good at. I want to figure out how you're doing that, and because the book on TensorFlow, I don't think talked about how to generate graphics.
It wouldn't. Yeah, because the models that use it are still in Python. Like, they haven't. The problem with TensorFlow JS is that it's a year or two behind the state of the art in Python, because people have to port the things. So once it's ported, though, you could do it in JavaScript. But yeah, right now you have to use Python.
Cool. Part of my prime directives in life is to avoid actually learning Python for as long as possible. So far, it's going very well. Cool. My next week, I would like to spend more than 199 minutes on Clipstop marketing. And I'd like to spend more than 199 minutes on File Inbox. I'm just going to show up for that every day. And that's what? 200 minutes divided by 7. That's half an hour per day. That's nothing. That's a single palm. I'm just gonna do it. Just gonna put in the reps.
1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon.
Exactly. Nothing.
Let's do it.
I'm just gonna do it. I don't even know what I'm gonna do. It's fine. I'm gonna set the timer, and my first one is just gonna be thinking about things I could do. And that's it. And that feels very tenable. So we'll see what actually happens. And then, my gosh, I feel so freaking close to this Clipstop marketing thing. Sometime this week, we might start seeing clips getting pushed on Twitter. I think after ironing out this scheduling problem, we're there. It's just gonna get done. Cool, Chris. That's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I will see you next week. Goodbye.